Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Superman issue 61 and the third story, Return to Krypton, which is a very important story in the history of Superman because it's going to introduce two things. One thing has been introduced, just a certain character is unaware of it. And for a comic that's actually pretty important, it starts off in the most generic Superman story you can kind of get into. It's not a mob gang story, but it is a scam Swami story, which we've had maybe 5 of over the course of all the hundreds of issues or stories we've read of Action Comics and Superman. Usually there's a Swami, maybe he has some sort of powers, usually hypnotism powers, but they're usually up to something or scamming people. So Lois is interviewing one of them. When it goes a bit wrong, he is a scam, but when Superman comes to stop him, he tries to hypnotize Superman, and it seems to work. Now, Superman has been successfully hypnotized several times. He usually just gets frozen in place and then breaks out of it a little bit later. It takes like mass concentration for him to break out of it. But that is actually not what's happening here. What's happening is Superman is feeling kind of sick and powerless when he gets near the Swami. Now, the Swami is picked up by mobsters who want to use him against Superman now that he's bragging that he can basically stop Superman. Now, some of you are familiar with Superman lore. Actually, most people are familiar with a certain Superman lore about something that takes away Superman's powers and weakens him. You see, Superman goes to track back because he knows the Swami doesn't have any powers. And he finds out that there is a rock in his Swami hat. Just a white guy putting on a turban to look more mystical and foreign or othering him a little bit more. It comes from a meteorite. A meteorite that Superman uses his amazing powers to somehow travel back in time, but more in a like Ghost of Christmas Past sort of way, where he's just kind of like watching it in rewind, but he's more or less a ghost, or everything around him is more or less a ghost. This is important because A, he finds out what planet it's from, but B, something I hadn't thought of until we had gotten to the story is Superman has no idea he's an alien. This has not been introduced in any of the origin stories. His parents never tell him. They just kind of find him. So they're unaware. So he, A, discovers he's an alien, and B, that he's from this planet. So that's actually a pretty big deal. And other stories later down will have like whole character beats where Superman has to reconcile not being human. But this is a Golden Age story, so he's just fine with it, goes with it, washes right over him. But this means that the Rock is kryptonite, Superman's greatest weakness. I'd actually say Superman's greatest weakness is that he's the most human character, and it's the most human things that can like ruin his day. But if you want to actually like hurt him, yeah, kryptonite. As in a physical way, not a mental way. But yeah, kryptonite, which he actually refers to as kryptonite in the story. I think it had already actually shown up in the radio program, but this is the first appearance of kryptonite in the comics. And it's going to be a big deal. By the way, I'm just reminded that I had a toy kryptonite as a kid, and by toy kryptonite, it was basically like a pet rock. As in, it was just a rock painted green. People just sold kryptonite. It was in a box, and it was just a rock painted green. My God, whatever you had to pay for that was way too much. So now that Superman understands what he's dealing with, it actually isn't very hard for him to defeat kryptonite. This is basically just a Smallville story. If you ever watch Smallville, and kryptonite would just randomly show up. So the regular dude he's fighting for the week can cause an obstacle. He just flies by him really fast and with a certain amount of distance, so the force of him moving by him knocks off the hat into the water, and it's far enough away that Superman can take care of them. And hopefully no one will find this meteorite in the water. But there's so much more meteorite. There's always more. Even though they say it's rare at times, there's always more kryptonite. So yeah, it's kind of an amazing little story to have this big of importance to it. I mean, by the time he actually goes and watches the flash of Krypton, I actually forgot that the story was called Return to Krypton. Because as it was going, it didn't seem like it was going to be all that important. So, is it a great story? No. Is it a good story? No. Is it a fine story? Yeah. I think it just gets brought up by the fact that it's kind of important to Superman history. kind of important. It's important to Superman's story history. I wish it had been like a bigger story, though. We didn't need the Swami. What we needed was Luthor. Okay, that is it from Superman 61, Return to Krypton. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when new videos up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman story, either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the Man of Tomorrow. Okay, have a great day.